and welcome back for another Not Too Shabby Shop Box of the Month YouTube video tutorial. Today I'm featuring one of the cute stamp sets that were part of the April Box of the Month. This is a subscription, and if you do subscribe to the Box of the Month, you receive an additional 5% discount. Any boxes that are left over are open in the store for sale until they're sold out. Here's a look at the products that I'll be using today on my card. I'm going to be working with this Berry Sweet stamp set. This is an adorable stamp set that has 3 different strawberries. There are 5 sentiments, 2 accessory pieces, and then of course we do have either the strawberry milkshake, the boba tea. You choose what that cute little cup is going to be. I'll be using some of the ephemera and the paper pad from So Refreshing. I have the Hero Arts white pigment pad. I'm using this Tim Holtz die, and then I have 3 distress oxides in Festive Berries, Tattered Rose, and Peeled Paint. Let's do a little bit of Copic Coloring. I have stamped my image onto accent opaque cardstock. I did use Copic friendly ink to do that, and I am going to start with my G markers. I always start with my darkest marker, or I should say I usually start with my darkest marker to add my shadowing in first. I'll start with a G7 and then I'll blend that out with a G5, and finally I'll finish it off with a G3. As I mentioned, the Box of the Month is a subscription box, so if you do choose the subscription, then the box will come every 30 days right to your doorstep. You'll receive it before everybody else does, and I have to tell you that it is packed full of so many wonderful products. I will have a link at the end of this video sharing some of my card shares that I created using this Box of the Month. I don't have tutorials on them, but it was just a way for me to share a little bit of inspiration as we hopped and shared the new box. I'm starting on the strawberry, and I'm going to use several different colors. I started with an R29, and I'll blend that out with an R27. And then once I'm finished with my R27, I'll blend just a little bit more with an R24. I'll use my R22 for the highlights. It's a little more pink than what I was looking for. I really wanted a really bright red strawberry. Now, if I was going for something that was a little bit more on the pastel side, then this pink would be perfect, but I didn't that's not the look that I was going for. I wanted something really deep red. So I'm going to go over this one more time, which is what I typically do. I'm going to start with that R29. I'll blend out with the R27, a little bit more heavy-handed, and then I'm going to fill in the remaining section going over that R22 with that R24. Now, because the R22 is already laid down, I'm still going to maintain that highlight, but again, I'm going to get that really strong strawberry color. I thought that I would start with some an R2 marker. It ended up being just a little bit lighter than what I was looking for, so I will add that R22 to the flower and to the cheeks to get a little bit more of that pink contrast. And then I'll take one of the green Copic markers and I'll just dot the center of that flower. Once I finish with that, I will use my gel pen to just go over the eyes and make them stand out just a little bit more. I'm going to add some freckles to the cheeks, and then of course I'll add some accents. The strawberry up at the top is the one that I'm actually going to use, the one with the hearts. For the hearts, I did use an R21 and an R22. Those are sunglasses. So if you look, you can see on the side of the strawberry's head, there are 2 lines, which would be the part that goes over your ears. over the stem, there is a bar, which would be the part that would go over your nose. Here's the part that I really was excited about. I wanted to share with you a little bit about highlighting when you're creating a background. One of the best ways to do this is to use a very light color in your background blending. So you notice that I do have the Tattered Rose, and then I'll go over it with the Festive Berries, and finally I'm going to finish blending with Peeled Paint. I'll go back over this panel. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel. It is accent opaque paper. So once I finish with this Peeled Paint, I'm going to go over it one more time. I want to note that when I go back over with the Tattered Rose, that I am going to clean my brush off on the side. So you're going to see that I'm going to bring in a little microfiber cloth, because every time that I go over that green Distress Oxide ink, it is picking a little bit of it up with my brush. So you're going to see in the second blend right here, I'm picking up that green, and you see that it's not as vibrant because it ended up moving the green. I had some green from the first time that I went back over that Tattered Rose. And so just make sure that in between each of your, when you're going over it a second time, if you choose to do so, that you do clean your brush off in between. I'll clean up a little bit of the bare space with that Festive Berries, and then of course we are using Oxide ink, so I'm going to spritz it with my bottle, which is going to give me some very fine dots, and then of course I'm going to clap over the top of it, which is one of my favorite ways to get that oxidation to really shine. You'll notice that there isn't the same vibrancy on this panel. I will tell you that if you do use the Distress Glaze over the top of that, not only will it seal your ink, but it will also bring some of that vibrancy back. I really wasn't concerned about that. So I have that very light area, as you can see, and now I'm adding some little polka dots, what seem to be polka dots, with my sponge dauber. When this pigment ink, I'll set it aside to dry. When it dries, as you can see right there, it's going to dry back a lot, and it's not going to be as vibrant as it was when I first added the ink. But now you can see, as I'm die cutting with that Tim Holtz die, now you can see the highlights, a little bit of a bokeh effect, and that's what I was going for. So if you use just a little bit lighter, a lot lighter ink when you're doing your blending, if you're looking for some highlights in your card panel, that's a great way to do that. I have a piece of the cardstock from the paper pad, and I'm cutting that down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I did use the paper pad as inspiration for the colors that I chose for the blended panel, and you can see just how nicely that peeled paint looks with the pattern paper from the So Refreshing 6x6 paper pad. I have a top folding A2 card base, and I'm going to add my panel to the front of this. And once I start adhering my strawberries, then you're really going to see the effect that that lighter ink has, and how it really just adds kind of a spotlight around those strawberries. I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape to my sentiment. The sentiment again does come from the So Refreshing ephemera pack, and it says "Sending sweet birthday wishes." Once I get this foam tape on, I'll remove the adhesive, or I'll remove the backing, and then we're going to glue it to the upper left hand corner of this card where I don't have any of those diamonds. All right, now you can see that I did color some little grass tufts off screen. I wanted my strawberries to be a little bit grounded, and I didn't want to necessarily lay a whole layer of grass. So I have a die in my collection that I can use just to get those little tufts. I've colored them with some of my cool and warm green markers, and I'm going to add it in an odd number. So I'm going to add 1 in the center, and then I'll flank 2 on the left and the right side of my strawberries, just to give it a little bit of balance. Once I finish with that, that will complete my card. I am going to show you a close-up. Again, I wanted you to really see how well that tattered rose and the white pigment ink added to the background really does highlight the strawberries. For the one with sunglasses, I did add some of my Nuvo crystal glaze, so I had the clear morning dewdrops. I'm showing you the bokeh effect in the background that's giving those strawberries just that little bit of highlight. I only glued the bottom of my grass so that I could bend those little tufts, and they're movable. I have that foam tape behind my sentiment to give it just that little bit of pop, and that will complete the card for today. So thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Thanks for joining me.